Hello, my name is Chloe, welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you some book recommendations to get to know me. So I have pinched this idea from Sydney over at Sid Bookworm. I will link her video down below so that you can go check her out. I'm sure that you know who she is and I'm sure you watched the video, but I saw it way back when and I thought, right, I'm definitely going to sit and film this video. Just when I upload it is a different thing. What I'm going to do is kind of approach it the same way. I think I kind of stole the idea and I'm just kind of rolling with it, how it works for me. So these are 10 books that I would kind of recommend. I love them. I only keep 4 stars and above on my shelves. So I have dug through, picked out 10 books that I feel like represent my reading taste as a whole. I know a lot of you guys have been around for quite a few years now, so I'm sure that you have your own ideas of what books I could choose. I'd be really interested to know if you want to make any guesses to what these books are. They're not my all-time favorites in many cases. They are some books that I think back on quite a lot, that I feel like have influenced the further books I pick up. They're just a very eclectic mix, you could say. And from picking them out of my shelves, I actually came up with what I think is quite a representative mix in the 10 books, because it's come down to 2 fantasy books, one of which is a cringeworthy YA and the other one is a romantasy style new adult, touching adult kind of category. Then I've got 3 thriller horror books, well, thriller or horror, I appreciate they're not the same thing, but yeah, 3 just weird thrillery books, and then 5 romances or contemporaries ranging from cute YA all the way up to depraved filth. So I'd say cringeworthy YA fantasy to adult depraved filth covers my entire reading taste. We would hope I've got this nailed. I hope I'm going to tell you quite a bit about them because it's been quite a few years since some of these books might have been mentioned. You might have never heard me mention them. So apologies if you have watched literally every single one of my videos and I'm repeating old news, but I'm going to try and tell you some interesting things about these books. So the cringeworthy YA fantasy, I know that some of you guys have guessed it, is Crave by Tracy Wolff. And kind of this whole series, I am only up to book 3 I think in reading them, but they all have the same vibes to me and I'm having a great time with them. So Crave is kind of Twilight-esque in its cringeworthiness, but it owns it. I have now read this book 3 times and I can say it solidly stands up to that 5-star rating every single time. We're following Grace, whose parents have died in a tragic accident. So she moves to live with her uncle in Alaska. Her uncle runs a school called Katmere Academy. It's a very remote, isolated school, and Grace is enrolled as a student there. But everything is not quite what it seems at Katmere, and we've got a lot of dominant male characters who are just a bit too aggressive and she doesn't really know why. We've got the brooding Jackson who she cannot understand. And it's entertained me on reread to go back and read this book on how I feel differently about some of the characters. But I just think that shows how fantastic it is actually written. It is completely cringeworthy, but the joy I get out of it and understanding the relationships between the characters just means so much to me. And like the cringe, let me read a quote on the back. It says, "Have you ever," my voice breaks and I take a deep breath, then try again. "Have you ever wanted something so much that you were afraid to take it?" He nods, yes. Like it's right there, waiting for you to reach out and grab it, but you're so terrified of what will happen when you lose it that you don't ever make the reach. "Yes," he says again, his voice burrowing into mine. I tilt my head up until our eyes meet and I whisper, "What did you do?" For long seconds he doesn't say anything. He just stares back at me with a look as scarred and broken as the rest of him. And he says, "I decided to take it anyway." Then he leans down and presses his lips to mine. It is so cringeworthy, but I absolutely love it. There is a huge supernatural side of this book which is just fantastic. I love it. so cringeworthy yet so good. Moving swiftly on and kind of elevating that book into new adult cringeworthiness, we have From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Al Armentrout. And the reason I wanted to mention this book again is because looking back on it and thinking about it, there are quite a lot of complicated fantasy elements that normally I don't enjoy, but this book, as it's a romantasy, which I love that word, make it much more digestible to me. We get some difficult fantasy elements thrown in, but wrapped up on the big romance side just means that I want to keep reading it for the romance, so I take in all this complicated stuff that I don't really care about normally. So in From Blood and Ash, we are following Poppy, who is the maiden. She has been destined from birth to be not touched, not spoken to, and kept pure. She's waiting for the day of her ascension, but she'd rather be training with the guards, building herself up to be a fierce woman, but she is not allowed to do that in her job as the maiden. She then meets Hawk, who becomes her guard, and she kind of starts to think it's not fair for her to have this life of like no joy and no pleasure when somebody like Hawk is looking at her. It says he incites her anger, makes her question everything she believes in, and tempts her with the forbidden. So I think this book is fantastic. Again, supernatural twist, and it's kind of clear, but I just think it's so great. I think it's told really well. It's chunky, and the further books in the series are also chunky, but it's just high fantasy done in the romantasy way that makes me love it. So I would say these books fully encapsulate how far I will go with fantasy. Moving on to the thriller, horror, weird books. The first one I want to talk about, and I know I've talked about it if you've been around on the channel before, is The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torr. This is a thriller book about our main character, Deanna. Deanna is confined to her apartment by her own choice because she believes that if she leaves the apartment, she will need to kill someone, and she will do it. She says that she's got this murderous part of her that has to be inside the apartment. She only unlocks the door for her deliveries, which is everything she needs to survive, and the way that she affords this lifestyle and continues this solitary confinement is by being a cam girl. The cam girl elements of this book are described in detail, so be pre-warned about that. It might be that you can deal with the murderous side of it, but you don't quite want that side in detail. It really is. I actually think it's fascinating. So this whole book is about Deanna, who is doing her cam girl job. She comes across this news story about Annie, a little girl who's gone missing, and somebody on the cam girl side of her life is just feeling a little bit uncomfortable and fishy, and she decides that she would like to potentially embrace the outside world if it means finding Annie and getting her home safe. So I really like this book. I like the sequel, Do Not Disturb, and the third book, If You Dare, is a little bit of a letdown compared to the rest, but just the series as a whole really makes me smile in a disturbed way. So would recommend this series. Next up, one that I have only read once and I really need to revisit it, maybe next year, is The One by John Mars. So I feel like this is a great book to get to know me because it's disturbing and enjoyable, and there's a romance. So The One is about a DNA matching system that will take you and find you your perfect match. This book is following 5 different people who have made their matches, and they all have their own secrets. Some of these secrets are darker than others. If you told me, I've just flicked to one of the characters' names, well 2 now, and that's the only way I know what they're called. It's been so long since I read this book, but I can just tell you that the vibes in this are perfectly me. I don't know how much I can actually tell you about the description of this book without spoiling anything, but I just think it's done so fantastically well. We range from nice people to actually sadistic, maybe killers in this book, and they're all just trying to find their true love match. It sparked some very interesting conversations in my life about whether I would sign up for this service just to check. I definitely wouldn't, but you know, I think people would. And as it's described on the front, it says a compelling dark read that gets you thinking. And is that my genre of choice? Maybe it is. Saying that, here's the next read in this stack, and I think a few people are going to be excited to see this here and a few people are going to be creeped out to see this here. A dark read that gets everyone thinking is Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bastarrica. So this is a very disturbing book. It is definitely not one of my favorites of all time, but I think it's a great recommendation for you guys to get to know my reading tastes. We are following our main character who works in the trade of slaughtering humans. And in this dystopian society, animal meat has become too contaminated to eat. So we have had to come up with a way to continue to have meat, and we've done that by creating human farms and breeding humans for consumption. It is so disturbing. It is described so in detail that it's like genuinely horrific. And I just think it's absolutely fascinating. I think it brings up some important conversations of where human morals are. And I genuinely love how depraved and disturbing this book is. What does that say about me? I don't know, but I just think it's a really good book to give as an example for you guys to get to know me. So this one is pushing the limits of what I'm okay reading about, but I feel like the way it towed that line was just done really well. That's the first 5. The next 5, kind of all they have in common is love, and that's a stretch. So the first, I'm gonna go from cute to filth. The cute one is Letters to the Lost by Brigid Kemmerer. Overall, Brigid Kemmerer can do no wrong in my eyes. Everything I've read from her, I've absolutely loved. 4.5, all 5 stars for everything. I think this is the first book I read from her. It is actually, if I can find it, signed, and I just love this book with my whole heart. I think I've only read it once, which baffles me. I think this covers what YA contemporary I like and would potentially still be interested in. So this is about Juliet. Juliet Young has always written letters to her mother. Even after her mother's death, she leaves letters at her grave. It's the only thing that helps Juliet cope. Declan Murphy is the kind of tough guy you wouldn't want to cross. But while on community service doing landscaping at the local cemetery, he is haunted by ghosts of his own past. While Declan finds a letter left beside a grave, he can't resist writing back. Soon he is sharing his pain with a perfect stranger, except they're not strangers. And when real life interferes with their secret life of letters, Juliet and Declan discover truths that might tear them apart. Just reading the back of it has made me want to read it again, and I think I'm gonna have to prioritize rereading this in 2024. I was like, oh god, what year are we going into? It's just so cute and so heart-wrenching. Like, this is the dark level contemporary with a romance added in that I just still love and would still want to read from. I don't think I can do cutesy YA anymore. So yeah, dark, troubling contemporary with a romance. This is where I am with YA. This one I think toes the line of YA into new adult maybe, and that is Dunder Cheap by Sarah Nicole Lemon. This book has been a favourite for many, many years, despite the fact I only read it once and it was like 4 years ago. So again, really one I'm gonna have to reread. I don't think I could tell you anything about this without reading the blurb, apart from the fact it is about a girl called Tourmaline, whose dad is the president of a motorcycle club, I think. I got into a stage of really being interested in motorcycle clubs. I've watched Sons of Anarchy maybe 5 times. The whole kind of structure and the respect and the kind of dark stuff they do too, but the respect for each other that they have really appeals to me. I don't know why, I just find it fascinating. So Dunder Cheap kind of plays on my interest in that and mixes in the romance and contemporary elements I love. So this says, Tourmaline Harris's life hit pause at 15 when her mom went to prison because of Tourmaline's unintentionally damaging testimony. But at 18, her home life is stable and she has a strong relationship with her father, the president of a local biker club known as the Wardens. Virginia Campbell's life hit fast forward at 15 when her mom sold her to the services of Hazard, a corrupt attorney for whom the law is merely a suggestion. When Hazard sets his sights on dismantling the Wardens, he sends in Virginia, who has every intention of selling out the club, and Tourmaline. But the two girls are stronger than the circumstances that bring them together, and their resistance defines the friendship at the heart of this powerful debut novel. This book, to me, has everything I'm interested in. We've got a strong friendship-led contemporary. We've got some dark elements of a mom in prison, a corrupt lawyer, and the motorcycle club, and if I do remember rightly, we have a lovely sprinkle of romance thrown in, which is why I think it toes the line of YA. I'm going to have to read this again soon. I have this copy and I have a signed ARC, and I just absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic, and I haven't read anything like it since June 2019 when I read it. Next up, we're back to Cringeworthy, and I have no apologies for this book being here. If you'd like to get to know me, a book that I love is After by Anna Todd, and the entirety of the After series. It is such a comfort read for me. I just think it's so great and easy. I'm sure you guys know because this is now a mega movie series, but I do think the book is 100 times better. We're following Tessa, who is a good girl, straight-laced, cardigan-wearing nerd. I say it because it sounds like me. And she goes away to college, and she's got a boyfriend back home who's a year below her. But when she finds her dorm, she is dormed with, oh my god, what's her face? I cannot remember the name of the girl she is roomed with. But she has a friend called Hardin. Hardin is the bad boy. He is covered in tattoos, he has piercings, and he is just not who she wants to be around. But something about him really draws her in, and she is tainted from her ways by bad boy Hardin. So on the back, Hardin is described as having tousled brown hair, tattoos, an irresistible British accent. Oh, and irresistible British accent. I can't speak now. Hardin is undeniably attractive, but completely different to what Tessa is used to. But he's also rude, to the point of cruelty even. Tessa should hate Hardin, and she does, until she finds herself alone with him in his dorm. His dark mood grabs her, and when they kiss, something ignites within her, a passion she's never known before. And I just really like the story of the good girl being swayed by the bad guy. It's like the staple romance thing that I love, and I will probably continue loving throughout my life. I've just noticed my copy is damaged, which hurts my heart. It's genuinely got a hole in it. I haven't reread these books in a while because they are chunky. I think this is the shortest one at like 580 pages. They're not for a quick read, but they are definitely there for a fun, enjoyable, light read. There's only one direction, follow your heart. Oh yeah, it also started as a One Direction Harry Styles fanfiction, but we're going to ignore that. I forgot that until I read the front. So that would definitely not be for me, but this, we can pretend that never happened. Okay, well this is fun because I went to edit the video and the end cut off because I talked for too long and I didn't realise my camera had stopped filming. So I think you heard all about After. The next one is, if you would like to get to know me in any capacity, you should read Falling for the Cowboy by Kennedy Fox. I believe this is also published with a different title, so I'll put that on the screen. I just don't know what it is off the top of my head. And this is about a bookish influencer who flies from California to, I believe it's Texas, and for work, for influencer purposes, and she meets a cowboy called Colton, and her life is changed. So hello, if you haven't met me, my name is Chloe. I am a bookish influencer by a stretch of the word, and I flew to America and met a redneck called Colton, and my life was changed. So this book, it's just hilariously funny, romantic. Like, it's so cringy. There is nothing really about this character that's anything like Cole, apart from being American and having the same name. That's pretty much it. But so much of this just makes me smile and makes me want to hug him. Like, I think it's great. So I'll read you the back and you can make your own mind up about this. It says, I've been warned on several occasions about Southern men with their sexy accents, charming manners, and the ability to easily get any woman in bed, which is something I'll be avoiding. Being a professional photographer has many perks. Travelling around the world, calling all the shots, and working with subject matter that isn't bad to look at. But Colton Langston, with his washboard abs and baby blue eyes, could care less about my current project. He's trouble, I know it, and he's determined to make me work for every single photo. When I'm forced into riding lessons, I get way more than I had ever bargained for, and by the time my trip is over, I'm in too deep. And I just think this book is pretty much perfect if you want to talk about me in any capacity. I understand it's all an oversimplification and just an over-exaggeration. I can guarantee for you guys now, sorry to disappoint, but Cole does not have washboard abs. But this one does, this Cole does, and it's a fun read, okay? Does anyone have any idea what book I've picked to summarise my dark romance reading tastes and what you should read to really get to know me? I think a lot of you would have guessed it. But it's Den of Vipers by K.A. Knight, because this is an enjoyable book. Right, there are problems with it, and I discussed those problems at length in my May 2021 video where I read pretty much the whole book out loud. So I discussed the problems, but I had a really good time with this book, okay? We're following the Vipers, Ryder, Garrett, Kenzo and Diesel, and they kidnap Roxy. Like, I just knew a character name without reading it. They kidnap Roxy for, I can't even remember what purpose, I won't lie. They've got beef with her dad, but I don't really remember what he did, to be quite honest. But Roxy is kidnapped by the Vipers, and she ends up in a reverse harem. There is some graphic content of this book. There are knives, there are guns, there's a very wrongly placed water bottle. But if we're going to summarise my entire reading taste from the way of YA fantasy and slightly disturbing thrillers, we've got to go all the way with depraved romance, right? I won't talk too much about this book. I feel like it's had a lot of limelight on my channel, but I really do think if you want to fully get to know me and my reading tastes, Den of Vipers would be the way. So there we have it. There are 10 books, all ranging across the spectrum, that are weirdly specific recommendations for you guys to get to know me. Did you guess any of these books correctly? Please let me know if you did. And if there is one book that you could tell me that would make me get to know you, that was a ramble. One book that you would recommend that would make me understand your reading taste, then please do let me know down in the comments. I'd be very interested to hear. But for now, I will leave you guys with these quality recommendations. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.